Hello everybody, welcome to Muggles and Mocha, the next to last chapter, chapter 16. Going through the trapdoor, like, how did we get to this point? This has just gone by so quickly, and I've just had a great time. I'm already holding the rant stick, so you know what that means. We're going to be talking about a lot of good topics today, of course, because we're in the meat of it. Like, the entire, I think I might have actually said this last week, but I'm going to say it again. The entirety of this book is just like a huge build as Harry's getting introduced to the magical world, Hogwarts, friendship, different teachers. You know, like it's a lot of build up until these last two chapters, and then like everything happens. It's just, man, I've just been really excited about this for the entire book. So let's get started. If you are a visitor or have found this video by accident, this is a Harry Potter book club where we're going through the series one chapter at a time. We're almost at the end of this first book. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that in the next two videos, but I'm just excited. But we also write articles too about Harry Potter, of course, but also just a bunch of different stuff. So you can check that out at my website, MadisonKdarby.com, which is what this book club is connected to. I also have social media links on the website that you can follow and keep up with all the latest news about different goings on and stuff like that. I have my coffee of the day. It's actually tea again. And look, we've got tea time and the tea bag. Look, it's like a tea bag holder. Like when it gets done, you can take it out, and I didn't throw it away. I just left it sitting in there. But this has become my favorite tea ever. It's from that same company I talked to y'all about a couple of weeks ago, Harney Sons, that I thought was from the UK, but they are not. They're from the United States, but this is called the Hot Cinnamon Spice Tea, and it is just so good. So I'm super excited to dive into that. And before we get started, I know I've already been rambling for like a couple of minutes now, but I just wanted to say I hope all of you are doing really well. This has just been a hard year. Of course, as everyone knows, I guess everyone's just going through a lot of stuff with, you know, I don't want this to be a space where we have to dive into the news and everything we see on a normal basis. I just wanted to say I hope all of you are doing okay, and I'm glad you're here, and just keep on keeping on. You're awesome, and we're all gonna get through this. So anyway, I just felt like I wanted to say that today. But for now, we can talk about a different world and get into Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, chapter 16. And actually, I feel like the first sentence of this chapter just really describes the Harry Potter books as a whole. And it reads, "In years to come, Harry would never quite remember how he had managed to get through his exams when he half expected Voldemort to come bursting through the door at any moment." So, almost every single book, I feel like that is the case. But yeah, we get through exams. We also get Harry's scar hurting more and more. And we all know that this is just a sign of Voldemort and Harry's greater connection, as we're going to talk about actually for the second book, Chamber of Secrets. That's going to be a huge topic, especially with the introduction of Parseltongue and things like that. But this is kind of like one of the big moments that we get that connection because the scar is the way Harry feels their connection most of the time. So it's starting to hurt more and more, which is the first time we've gotten that in the books. And then Harry actually has a bit of a stroke of genius here. He starts thinking about Hagrid and how the person who gave him Norbert might have just wanted information about Fluffy. And like, good job, Harry. Like, for a kid, this is a pretty astute observation to make and to go into. And he is right. They go and talk to Hagrid. He also tells them how to get past Fluffy. Like, why does Voldemort, why does Dumbledore trust Hagrid with like huge things? I mean, I get like he has such a good heart, but just don't tell him all of the details. And maybe he doesn't. I mean, this was like Hagrid's challenge, and he, didn't know about the rest of the teachers' challenges, so maybe they were keeping that from him. I don't know. This is a big trait of Hagrid, telling us stuff that we don't need to know, that he shouldn't have said. So now they know how to get past Fluffy. And they go to tell Dumbledore about this, about that Hagrid has revealed this information, or someone, has snuck this information out of him. But, of course, Dumbledore is gone. Yeah, as if all this wasn't enough, Dumbledore has left the school, the one person that they think could be like the protection between Hogwarts and Voldemort. And they try to confide in Professor McGonagall about this, who, even though she drops her books, I feel like she handles this really well. Like, obviously she's surprised that they know, but then she just is like, it's very well protected, it'll be fine, usual stern McGonagall speak. But with Dumbledore gone, the trio think that Snape, or whoever, will go after the stone that night, and yes. So we're going down the trapdoor, but before we go, to convince Ron and Hermione, Harry gives this impassioned speech about Voldemort before he fell and what the world must have been like, and basically just how there are more important things at stake here than getting expelled. And I just always have to come back to it. I know I've said this a lot through the entire book, but these kids are 11. Harry is 11, and I just feel like this is a very mature speech to give to friends, just about recognizing the danger that the world is in, and that it's much bigger than school and what they're experiencing right now. And I just love the line that he says when he says, I'm never going over to the dark side. Like, Voldemort's going to have to kill me, or he'll try to kill me, because I'm never going to the dark side. And just, gosh, Harry, he's just going through a big transition here. I feel like it takes place through the whole book, of course, through the whole series. But just Harry coming into his own and realizing what all is going on here and the danger that he is in. And actually, my friend Tyler Powers, who always leaves just such wonderful comments, go read his comments. They are just so insightful. But he pointed out in last chapter, chapter 15, that when Harry finds out that Voldemort is involved with this plot to steal the Sorcerer's Stone, that is kind of the moment that destroys any chance he ever had of having a normal childhood or life, which is so true. And it's really sad, because up to this point, it's hard, because anyone stealing the Sorcerer's Stone is a huge deal, of course, and would be dangerous. But up to this point, it wasn't about how it was going to affect the Wizarding world as a whole. It was more of this person can get a powerful object that can give them all the money they want, and they can live forever, and things like that. It wasn't like Voldemort taking down the Wizarding world. And so up until this point, I feel like it's been a really good kid book. We're trying to stop the professor that's bad, but now it is just much bigger than that, and it's something that Harry's having to face. So thank you, Tyler, for this comment, and for every comment. I just love them so much. So yeah, put a comment on there, all of you, and it might make it into a video, because I really do go through and read all those, and I try to respond. I'm not very good at it, but I'm getting there. So before they go to encounter Fluffy and the Trapdoor and all that's going to come with the Sorcerer's Stone, they do have a brief encounter with Neville. And look, I've heard people, we're going to talk about this more in chapter 17, but people give Dumbledore flack for giving Neville the 10 points that causes them, to beat Slytherin. And do I think that Dumbledore did the math so that they could just win? Yes. Do I think that he just gave Neville points out of pity or just to make them win? I don't, because I really do think that Neville deserved it. I think he says this in the book. I know who Dumbledore says it in the movie, but he says, it takes a lot of courage to stand up to your enemies, but a great deal more to stand up to your friends, or just as much courage. I think it is much harder to stand up to your friends or family or people close to you than it is people you don't know, who you already view as enemies. It's not easy to do that either, but in comparison to me, at least, I find that a lot more challenging and hard, because you really respect these people's opinions, unlike your enemies. So, you know, you want them to like you and you want them to agree with you, and sometimes that just doesn't happen. And that's what stinking Neville did here. So he deserves the 10 points, all right? I stand by it. So from here, we get to the challenges. All the different challenges guarding the stone. And because of time, I'm not gonna go into like super huge detail about every single one of them. But in a nutshell, this is what we have, along with the professors that contributed them. So we have Fluffy, who was given by Hagrid. We've known about that one for a while at this point. Devil's Snare, which belongs to Professor Sprout. We get Flying Keys from Professor Flitwick. Compared to the rest of them, not very dangerous, but I think it fits Professor Flitwick's personality or what we know about him. So we get Flying Keys, gotta catch him on a broom. I guess Quirrell is a good flyer. Then you get Professor McGonagall's chess set, which I feel like is the flashiest, you know, the one that we get in the movie and we spend the most time on. So that's just awesome in itself. You get Quirrell's troll, which didn't make it into the movie because he already defeated it by the time Harry and Hermione get there, but kind of wish we still had that. You get Snape's potion test, which unfortunately didn't make it into the movie. I've just always wanted to see what the table looked like and how everything was set up, and like pause the video and see if I can like figure it out on my own, but we didn't get that, unfortunately. And then we have the Mirror of Erised, which is just awesome. But yeah, instead of focusing on each individual challenge, I would just kind of like to talk about Harry, Ron, and Hermione's actions and attitudes during this part of the book. They really impressed me. Like, I know this is a book and it's fiction, and of course, like, your protagonists are going to be awesome. But just thinking about their age and just how difficult all of this would have been, they are just so brave. Really impressed with them in this first book. And actually, my article this week is about Ron. As I've told you before, and actually this might have been in the first couple of videos, I don't do a good job at recognizing Ron and giving him the credit that he deserves. And it's for a lot of reasons. Like, you know, I'll admit, I don't do a good job at, you know, seeing who Ron really is and like how he's just a good friend. And more than that, like he's a good wizard, stuff like that. Because I think I hold resentment toward him for things that happen in later books, possibly. And plus the movies. Okay. Especially looking at this chapter, the movies do not do a good job at portraying who Ron is, in my opinion, okay? Like, they make him so jumpy, and, you know, like, Ron is funny. Of course that happens in some parts of the book. But in this part of the book, that doesn't happen. And we're going to talk about it, but yeah, the article is about Ron. And we're going to talk about him a little bit right now, too. So he's just awesome in this part of the book. And I think that, like, the main thing I noticed about the difference between the movies and the books when it comes to Ron during this part, I don't know what I'm doing with my hands, okay, is whenever they fall into the Devil's Snare. In the movie, Ron is like freaking out and Hermione has to save him. He's like screaming and like pulling at it and just not listening to anything anyone says. But in the book, it is the opposite. Like, of course, like Harry and Ron are the ones that are sitting in the Devil's Snare and they're getting covered. But Hermione has a moment where she kind of freaks out and she's like, we don't have wood for a fire. Like, how am I supposed to get rid of this? And Ron's like, are you kidding? You're a witch. Just do it. And I can totally relate to Hermione because I am not very good under pressure. And yeah, but Ron does really well at keeping his head. And they just... Like, why did they do that? Actually, I have a theory for why. I think it's because they took out Snape's test in the movie, and that was like Hermione's time to shine, and the way that she got past one of the challenges, and with that being taken out, I think they just really needed to put emphasis on the Devil's Snare thing and make that be like her thing that Dumbledore could give points for, because he says cool logic in the face of something, I don't know, but she doesn't get to do the logic one. So they had to just really make her like calm, cool, and collected during that part. Whatever. I feel like it really gives us a picture of Ron that follows us throughout the rest of the books. So, harmful book movies. So, yeah, I just think that Ron does really well at keeping his head. Of course, you get the chess scene, which they do a good job of that in the movies, I think. And Ron, just like without hesitating, sacrifices himself for Ron and Hermione and is like, don't wait around. Once you win, you've got to go. Because like even in the movies, we get Hermione staying after with Ron to kind of like look after him. But they have to leave him behind. And like in the book, he knows that. And that's going into his thought process when he thinks of what he's going to do in the chess match where the queen comes after him. I don't know. I just think that this chapter like gave us a good dose of like the bravery that Ron has and why he is in Gryffindor and just a great guy, friend, whatever. He does great during this chapter. I thought he was the star. So Harry will be the star next chapter. He always is, He's usually the star, but Ron gets this one, okay? So, back to the challenges. I do think all of them are just really neat and do reflect each professor's personality pretty well. But what is your favorite? Let me know in the comments. What is your favorite out of these challenges? And I'm going to be honest with mine. Taking Dumbledore's mirror out of it, because that one's just unfair. It's too awesome and it's going to come into play in the next chapter. So I'm going to bring that one out of the picture for right now. But my favorite one is Snape's potion test. It is so cool. Gotta give credit where credit is due. Like, it is a very, very neat test that's dangerous. It's confusing. You got like the poem that goes with it. Is it a poem? Whatever. You have the instructions, and I don't know. Just overall, it is my favorite one. And like I said earlier, so sad that didn't make it into the movie. I actually, as a kid, I remember like taking a piece of notebook paper and trying to draw where the different potions would have been and like how tall or short they were, and trying to see how it would have been laid out, but who even knows? Maybe I should try that again. Do you even have enough information to do that? Don't know. Now, I don't know if the teachers should be ashamed that a bunch of 11-year-olds got past all these challenges that was supposed to stop like someone that broke into Gringotts. But, it makes a good book, right? We need our protagonist to be able to succeed, and Harry, Ron, and Hermione are pretty awesome. I don't know. Forget it. The teachers should be ashamed. Like, what even? So, Harry and Hermione get to the last challenge before the mirror, Snape's, and the pair have a moment where they have to come, like, seriously, face to face with the concept of death, that Harry might not be coming back. And, this is a kid's book, so of course the different challenges and the kids succeeding through them is presented in a way that isn't scary, that's exciting, and like that kids can really grasp onto and just be like, oh, this is cool. But here I think we get one of our first glimpses into some more adult themes that'll come up later in the books of just the danger that Harry is constantly in. And, Hermione and Harry have this real moment where they're like, Voldemort could be in there. The person who killed Harry's parents and who tried to kill him could be in the room that Harry's about to go into. And this could be the last conversation that Harry and Hermione have. And, she gives him that big hug and it starts telling him what a great wizard he is. And I don't know, it was just very meaningful for me this time around because I didn't put it as much in like, Hermione's scared, like she's freaking out and Harry's having to calm her down. That's kind of even how it is written a bit. But just thinking about how I would be in this situation, like, you want the person to know what they mean to you. And I don't know, I think that's what we're getting here is Hermione having to really face down that her friend might not come back. And man, this really just took a turn. But yeah, we get serious moments even throughout these early books. So Harry walks through the door and the perpetrator, the villain, is standing there, but not Snape. We know who it is, but it is not Snape. And actually, I was with my younger brothers-in-law. I think I've already told you their ages before, but they're like 6, 7, and 10, like pretty young. And this is, they're listening to the Harry Potter books be read to them at night. And I was there when they got to this cliffhanger where, you know, it says Harry sees the person, but it wasn't Snape. And they immediately were like, who is it? Who is the person? And one of them guessed Hagrid. I don't know the rationale behind that, but he was just super suspicious about Hagrid and was like, I know it's him. Hagrid is the one. And I was like, oh no. But we know it is Quirrell with his turban and Voldemort too. Horrifying, but gosh. And yeah, we won't read the last paragraph this week because basically Harry just like walking in and seeing who it is what happens. But that brings us to the last chapter, and you don't know how much I want to keep going. Like, this is very difficult because my favorite chapters in each book are definitely the ones where Harry and Dumbledore have like their big conversations. They're so meaningful, revealing. They're great ends for the book. And actually, my favorite ever chapter, or two, it's actually, well, I don't want to tell you like what my favorite parts are until we get to them, but it's a chapter where we get a big conversation with Dumbledore, and then there's kind of like an aftermath. It's like two chapters that are my favorites in the book, besides the end of the 7th. I don't know, it's hard. I'll tell you when we get to it. But yeah, one of my favorite chapters in the Harry Potter series is a big conversation with Dumbledore, and they're so deep, and we learn things that follow us through the rest of the series and follow Harry, and I can't wait to talk about it. But yeah, for my favorite book, I'm really going to stick to this. I am not going to tell you what it is until we reach it, but I will tell you it was not the first book. I do love this book, but it's not my favorite one of the series. And actually, at the beginning of each book, in the first chapter, I will tell you if the book we're about to talk about is my favorite. So yeah, just keep your ears open. And I'll tell you which one it is when the time comes. So next time, we're going to be breaking down Dumbledore's conversation, wrapping up the end of the book, going to the end of your feast. I'll have to bring something festive for it, I guess. I'll wear something that I would wear to the Hogwarts feast, I guess. And I'll also give you my overall thoughts about this book as a whole. You know, we'll just kind of break down like the purpose of this first book, which is kind of an easy one to talk about, seeing as it's like the initial story. But yeah, we're going to be covering a lot of stuff next week. I'm very, very excited about it. I've already decided what the article is going to be about. We are going to talk about the idea of love and how Harry's mother's sacrifice protected Harry the way he did. Like, how does that actually work? And you know what? I have thoughts for the haters. All right, a word I don't think I've ever said in my life, but it's just true. I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of passion about this because I just think this is really important and a huge deal, and people just scoff at it and it's like, oh, of course, love is the thing that's the most powerful and it wins. Okay, it is more than that. I've got to calm myself down, but we're going to talk about it. I won't go into it here because I could just talk and talk and talk and you guys will never get out of here. So yeah, you don't want to miss next week's video for sure because we are wrapping it up. Read chapter 17 and we'll talk about it next week and finish up this first Harry Potter book. Can't believe it. But I'll stop rambling and just say this has been super fun. I'll see you next time. Cheers, I guess. So I will see you guys next time around for the end, the very end, and then we get into book 2. So get ready. Bye.